When you understand benefits realisation, it makes really clear sense to do because of the value it can add. But if you try and explain it to other people, that can be really hard, especially because most of the books and articles are really about theory. So how can you practically explain it to people? Now, if you like our content and videos, please subscribe. Then you'll be able to see when new videos are published, which is every Thursday. So let's have a look at benefits realisation in a bit more detail. Some people might be surprised to hear that benefits realisation management is actually part of performance management. When you look at it, it kind of makes sense because performance management, as it says there, is making sure that the activities and outputs meet an organisation's goal effectively and efficiently. So what you do and what you produce should be moving the organisation forward, and to do so in a very efficient way. But does it really make sense? Because surely performance management has many other connotations and uses in an organisation. Well, when you look at it, performance management, you can split it into 4 areas. You can look at the whole organisation, how is it performing? You can also look at a specific area of the business and how is that doing, and to drive that. Most commonly, and it's how I've heard about it and actually been part of it, is from an employee perspective. Let's do reviews, set objectives and plans for employees to drive their performance. But the thing we really should be focusing on here is the last part, the management processes, because it's around making sure that those management processes, what they do and what they produce, are actually moving the organisation forward. Now, of course, there's a lot of management processes in an organisation, but specifically for benefits realisation, you're talking about projects, programs, portfolios and strategic planning. They're the things that people invest in, want to change, because specifically they should be delivering business benefits to the organisation to move them forward. And it's a concept which will really help us as well, is something called the triple bottom line. Now, what is that? And you might not have heard of it before. Well, it's this awareness around, it's not just about the financial impacts of what you do. You should also be considering the social and environmental impacts as well. So a focus on those 3 key areas in terms of what should be important for your performance. And to support this, then we really can look at 2 parts. There's financial measures on the right, about money, ratios, the value that people really understand and manage closely in an organisation. But there's also the non-financial. So they're the social, environmental, but also things like the customer process and general capability of an organisation as well. Now, often when we talk about this, then people are saying, well, actually, don't talk about anything but money in my organisation. Everything has to come down to money. Now, of course, in an ideal world, then you should be able to put a financial value on all measures, all changes that you're looking to see. They should have some financial value. But actually, that's not always possible. And sometimes it's good to have a look and understand the non-financial measures, because when they flow, then often they can enable and contribute and cause financial measures. So non-financial measures are really a very strong enabler in many, many cases of financial benefits. And we can have a look at things like, for example, around balanced scorecards, recognise that the financial benefits actually need the non-financial to come up and flow. Until you improve the skills and knowledge of your people and give them the tools, then they can't work more efficiently. And therefore, that efficiency in terms of lower costs won't come until you understand and make sure that those other measures are in place. The balanced scorecard, amazing thing to look at, because it does look at that, as it says in the title, the balanced view. Now, you might be thinking, this is all well and good, and makes sense, but actually what is benefits realisation really about? because I don't want to be lost in measures. And for me, it's really around delivering value for both the business or your organisation and stakeholders. And I'm not talking about value as in cost and benefits, sort of financial benefits. What's the financial gain? Take away the cost. I'm talking about what do they really need? What does the business really need as a priority? So let's look at this in a bit more detail as well. So we've talked about projects, programs, portfolios, strategic planning, and they exist to deliver value to the business and the stakeholders. That's why there's an investment there of effort, cost, and resource, for example. Now, these business and the stakeholders can express what they value in terms of objectives and goals. And that's really important, that they get specific around what actually do they want, so we can focus in on them. Now, if we understand what the business, the objectives that the business wants, the objectives that the stakeholders want, then we can actually understand what are the specific outcomes, almost mini objectives, that we need to really realise and have happen to enable those bigger objectives to take place. Now, the problem with outcomes, with objectives, is sometimes they're general statements of intent. We want to do this, we need to do this. And it's really important in benefits realisation management is to focus also in on the measures. What are the measured changes we can understand and monitor, that we can actually see a needle moving or something changing, which helps us understand if we're getting closer or further away from those outcomes being realised. So measured changes on that value is essential. And rather than talking about projects, programs, portfolios and plans, we can also look at the outputs and deliverables. So what specific things do they need to produce which will impact then on the outcomes and cause a measured change, which will then build together so we can understand that we're making a good contribution and enabling those objectives and goals to be achieved. Now, this logical flow is quite rare without the tools and techniques of benefits realisation. It's often done on a hope and a prayer. So again, we're getting into a bit of detail here, but I think it's necessary. So let's just raise it up a bit and have a look at really what are the three fundamental areas that we should be really understanding about benefits realisation. Now, these are my three value adds of benefits realisation. So whenever anybody says to me, why should we be doing this? Why is it important? How does it help? Then first of all, it's saying, right, we're going to be aligning what we're doing in terms of projects, portfolios, etc., to deliver value. We're going to make sure they're all aligned in. The next thing is we're going to make sure that what we do, we're going to be certain that they will deliver the value. We're not guessing, we're not hoping, we're being certain. So we're really increasing our confidence that value will be delivered. And then as we go through, we're going to be certain that value has been delivered. So aligned to deliver, we're certain it will, and we'll be certain it has. And if it doesn't, we've got a way of managing through the process to bring things back on track. So they're my three really value adds. So let's just look at those in a bit more detail. So let's overlay what we just looked at before. So are we aligning to the objectives and goals, all the outcomes that are necessary and sufficient for those objectives and goals to be met? Have we got enough measured changes so we can do this with data and confidence that we know we're getting the outcomes and the changes in outcomes needed? And have we got aligned to those outcomes, the outputs and deliverables that are actually going to make that difference? So that's alignment. Then certainty, the same picture. It's saying, are we certain that the outputs, deliverables are enough to make the changes to the outcomes to deliver those objectives and goals. And then the third one, are we certain it has delivered value, what we're doing? And that's really around those measured changes. Yeah, are we capturing data? Are we capturing information on them that will help us as feedback see if we're moving closer or further away from where we need to be? So now just to summarise that, benefits realisation is around delivering value for the business and for the stakeholders. And the three areas are making sure that what we do, the plans, the programs, etc., are aligned with what the business and stakeholders want, their goals and objectives. We're certain that the activities and outputs and capabilities will deliver the outcomes. And then thirdly, can we prove that we have delivered the benefits that they're after? And when I say prove, are they confident that they trust the data, they trust the evidence, it's clear that those have been delivered? Now, so far, this all sounds really excellent. We're going to deliver value for the business, what everybody wants. The stakeholders, we're going to move things forward, we're going to have alignment, we're going to be certain it will, we're certain it has, we've got feedback, we've got understanding. But all of this isn't free. It does come at a cost. So actually, what is the cost? And why should we do this? If you've not been doing it already, a lot of people do say, well, it's because it will just cost too much. All that extra cost, time and effort, you could say, actually, is it worth the benefit? Is it worth to get this extra value from what we do? Is it worth it for the extra transparency that benefits realisation will provide? And is it worth it in terms of the extra goals that you'll meet, or certainty or degree you'll meet them? Now, this can be explained or shown in a typical balance. Is the cost, the time and the effort less and therefore lighter than the value of the value and the ability to meet goals and the transparency that I mentioned? And that's what you need. You need to be certain that actually what you do to do benefits realisation is actually going to deliver you much more. And it might not be in just financial terms, but it could be in terms of meeting some of those triple focus areas around social, environment, as well as financial. It could be because of transparency. Now let's just move on a little bit. And there's a big question here around, okay, but why aren't we doing this already? And is it new? Is there a reason, if there was lots of value and for low cost, then why isn't everybody doing it? Is it some management fad? Is it some just rough idea? Is it a new thing? And therefore it's going to just come and go. Now, as we said, performance management is the overarching area. And specifically, there's certain business processes that we want to increase the performance of in terms of their impact on the organisation's success. And benefits realisation management is the thing that actually focuses on those areas to drive greater success. So you might have already have heard of this, but maybe by a different name. And there's some of the names there. For example, benefits management without the realisation, or outcomes management, or value management. Now some of those have other areas of speciality. So for me, benefits realisation management keeps coming back to the core. And if we have a look at it, there's a number of organisations out there, including the Project Management Institute, and the Association of Project Management as well. And they look at those processes around projects, programs, portfolios, and they have it as part of their global standard. So it's not just a consulting idea, it's actually established and it's part of the book of knowledge from the PMI. It's also subject of a number of thought leadership areas, and it's included in the value area on the 12 principles that they also sort of share. Very much worthwhile having a look at that and getting a copy, and really a good standard. Now, one thing that really bothers me, and it's something I can talk about for a lot longer than I will now, and I will do videos on this, but one of my frustrations is there's a lot of things written that actually don't help you implement things in practice. So I think what we should do now is just have a look at a simple process which is practical. So this has been proven over many years, and it's what I recommend and also help organisations to follow. It works, it delivers results. So let's have a look at this in a bit more detail. This is a benefits realisation management process, or the process. And I've split it up here into 3 areas about agreeing the value you're after, again, the stakeholders and the business, doing some activities to manage that value, and then providing people with insights on the value so they can make decisions. And if we look at agree the value, one of the first things that we can do is it's important to identify what is important. We need to agree why a project, a program, a portfolio, a plan is needed. What are the priorities and what do we need to do to achieve it? And here I'm just showing you an example benefits map. You can see the goals on the right there, and objectives. Then we've got supporting and strategic benefits. They're the ellipses, the circles, and they break down really of what outcomes do we need to actually then contribute to those objectives. So it's like a cause and effect, a bit of a domino. If we get these outcomes, then they should knock into the objectives and have an impact on them. You can see some rectangles there on the circles in white. They're some example measures. So not everything can be measured or should be measured. Here there's some examples. Again, it's just an illustration. So if we have certain changes in those measures, that should contribute to the objectives and the goals being met. Now, how do those outcomes change? Well, on here, we've just shown that there's some initiatives in that column there, new ways of working, for example, which contribute then to specific benefits or outcomes. And then to the left of those, what are the specific capabilities and changes and tasks do we need to do as part of those initiatives to make an impact? Now, there's different flavours and styles of map. This is just one, and I'll do videos on different styles and examples that people have kindly provided on further videos. So do please subscribe and you'll be notified when they come on. So this helps us agree the value, identify what's important by getting people together and actually building this view, this common on a page sense of cause and effect, what we need to deliver that value. And then as a result, we know what we're doing is aligned to deliver value, those initiatives and the tasks in the change portfolio on this example. And it gives us more certainty that we're all talking about the same thing. And there are certain things which aren't in there, which we've all agreed aren't important. Now, the next thing we need to do is then commit to actually say, yes, that is a great view, but actually, what measures should we do? Collect data on and when. So here's an example. It's from Wovex as a software solution. And on the right there, you can just see the different stages. Here, there's 2 of this, say, program. And we can see that actually, in stage 1, there's certain measures which are green, where we need data. There's certain measures which are blue, which are saying they're important, but we don't need data. And there's certain measures on there which are grey, which are, yes, we don't need data for, and they're not really important for what we're trying to do. So the important thing about this is early on in discussions, we're agreeing what the green things are, what data we need for what measures, and we're all agreeing that and being able to resource up. So as a result, again, we maintain that alignment. We're talking about what's important. We're certain we'll deliver it because we're all on the same page. Now, the next thing we need to do is collect data to do some tracking. So we've identified what's important, we've committed to collecting some data, now we need to collect that data. We need to calculate values, we need to update forecasts, some that as we go, as our understanding evolves. And by collecting that data, we get more certain that value has been delivered. Here is an example of a data entry form that people can type in the value, can be reminded of and enter. Here, for example, number purchased. The idea, again, is to try and make this as frictionless and as simple and easy for people to provide this data, be it from systems, be it centrally calculated in some software, or however. It's got to be as easy as possible. And we need enough insights to manage. We need to understand the status of delivery. Are early signs of the data showing we're on track or behind? Let's understand who the people are involved and the timescale as well. So we need to get some data to make sure that what we're aligned to deliver, we're certain still it will deliver. If not, we need to maybe replan. And also at the bottom there, has it delivered value? So we can actually see things unfold. So that's all part of managing the value. The insights, there's often a cadence, a regular set of reports that are needed. And here's an example of a benefits dashboard. This one's from Wovex, one of the standard dashboards. And it just shows you different goals, the benefits that are aligned to deliver those goals, the measures that we're collecting data on, and how different programs and areas of change, like IT and process and brand changes, are making an impact, and if they're on track. So it's this type of dashboard with narrative that people who are decision makers, who need to have this as part of a regular reporting pack. So it's providing insights, meeting reporting needs, doing it regularly so people can get used to actually seeing an overall view of how we're doing on benefits realisation. And also, from a last part on the insights, is it's also about reviewing and saying, okay, well actually, are the benefits still worth it for some of these things? We're considering something new. Given how we're performing, should we stop that and do this new thing or continue? So here's just some scenario example of an attractiveness score, of understanding actually all these projects have an attractiveness score, they've got a cost, financial benefit, and with other financial areas and progress and so on. But the essence of this is, are we doing the things that are most attractive? As progress on things happen, some things go well, some not, some new things come around, have we got that certainty that we're doing the right things? And that's what benefits realisation should also include. So if we have a look across these, we can see that these three stages of the process are really essential. And it's not good enough to just focus in on the identify, on the mapping. You need to go all the way through. While this is all the scope of a common process end-to-end for benefits realisation, it can still be hard to actually have an organisation to accept it, to say, yeah, this is for us. And often the what's in it for me question comes up. So let's just have a look at that one as well. So when we look at what's in it for me and for the different roles in the organisation, first of all, we should be looking at some headlines overall. So we've already talked about more value for the business and stakeholders. We can do things from a second point. We can do this more effectively and efficiently in terms of meeting those goals by using this approach. And also, we've spoken about transparency, that it gives you that extra information of what's planned, what's been delivered, and it gives you therefore that control of benefits. Now, these alone are three areas which are quite powerful, but let's have a look at the financial role. So one of the things we get is often for things like agile or for areas which are non-financial, because there's such an understanding of the finances in most organisations, then people can have a bit of a challenge in seeing the value. So one of the things it can do is financial promises. It can cut through the hype because you can see the causality. Show me on those maps how what we need to invest in will cause that and how we're going to measure it. If you put it into your business case, then you can trust your business cases more. Have a benefits map in them. Have some measures and make sure that it's full of an end-to-end process. And for somebody in a financial role to be able to go, great, I can trust my business cases more in terms of the promises in there, and I can be more certain. And I can also get regular data on progress, so I can understand how things are actually progressing through. So from a financial role, for me, who's very biased, it's a very clear decision. Now, if you're in a business manager role, then obviously you're trying to drive a business forward and you want to have increased probability that you're going to get the value you need from your budget that you're putting over. And that certainty, again, that confidence will help you with that. Because you're being more explicit and clearer about what a business case should be doing, it should go through the process better and easier. And also, you can get regular feedback on, are you going to be able to meet your objectives? Because you might be reliant on some of those outcomes being delivered from your projects and portfolios, etc., to actually meet your targets. So from a business manager perspective, more probability, smoother process, and you get more information. From a project management office or an enterprise project management office, you can actually show you're adding, by what you do, more value to the business. You can show that actually your projects, portfolios, etc., aren't just delivering things, they're actually making an impact. And you can quantify that impact. You can enhance your reporting by including the benefits side. And you can also show, because it's part benefits realisation, part of global standards, you can show that you're actually using those standards and good practices. If you're doing benefits already, then actually having a clear process where you can maybe enhance what you do to include some of the things I've mentioned and talked about. You can prove that you're adding more value and people will feel like you're adding more value. You can also, by having a regular process and the standardization of that process, you can increase your capacity and capability. And a common problem is people coming up with all these measures. Then they call them different names, you can't bring all that data together. So actually having a standard set of process and measures and benefits can make a massive difference to double counting in other areas as well. Now, we've been through quite a lot, so let's just summarize some of the key points. So here we went through around it, part of performance management, focus on management processes and specific ones. And then we looked at why benefits realisation is part of global standards for programs, portfolios, projects and planning. We looked at the triple bottom line, where we're saying actually you might be very good at looking at your financial impacts of what you do, but actually there's more in terms of social, environmental and others that you, by focusing in, you can deliver more financial benefit as well. We also looked at the main area of delivering value for business and stakeholders. That's what benefits realisation does. And we talked about the 3 areas, the making sure that what you're planning and doing is aligned to what the business and stakeholders value. You're certain that what you've got in place will deliver it as you're doing your plans, your business cases, your management. And also you're making sure you're proving that you are delivering those benefits, the value to the business and the stakeholders as you go through. And of course, you want to do it all in a way where the cost, the time, the effort is minimised. And that's where you start looking at the seesaw side. But even doing a little bit is going to make a big difference to you. I also took you through these 3 stages about agreeing value, managing value, and sharing insights on value, and the difference that can make if you have that in your organisation. That's a question only you can answer, whether this is something which feels right for you to do or to enhance if you already do it. Lastly, just the headlines revisited around benefits realisation is about delivering more value to the business and stakeholders. It's doing this more effectively and more efficiently, and increasing the transparency and control you have of that value delivery. So I hope that's giving you a flavour for what benefit realisation is, and some of the messages to help you get support for benefits realisation. And a lot of these ideas aren't new, they're things that you can relate to and hopefully use to build support. Now, as I mentioned before, there's regular content we'll be providing, and if you want to subscribe to our monthly newsletter in terms of a summary of what's going on, then there's a link below which you can click on. And also do let me know your thoughts and feelings about this video and other areas and topics to cover. So thank you for listening, and I really appreciate your support. Thank you.